actually went to school for game design, so I know the ins and outs of how most of these game engines work and the general sort of issues that you run into on a day-to-day basis. So what we're going to talk about today is creating immersive experiences with Twitch and the sort of pain points and sort of ways for you to get around having to deal with different sort of issues, and an exciting new project that I think you all will be rather pleased to see. So first, let's take a step and take a look at what happens on Twitch day to day. So every year, Twitch has continued to grow. So in the past, this is from 2022, but in these stats, we have 1.3 million minutes watched in 22, 35 million average daily users, and every day, or every month, we have about 20 million unique streamers on our platform. And on our left here, we have all of our different platform level features that we currently support. So be that follows, bits, subscriptions, what have you. There is a bunch of things that are all about Twitch. And best of all, we make new content every day, and we make new ideas every day, and new unique features. So what can we build on Twitch? Well, there's all sorts of different interactions you can highlight. You can see my Twitch handle there. That's Kane. If you want to follow me, go ahead. Anyway, Twitch highlights. So a lot of people have seen this sort of thing where every time a new follow happens, you'll see that pop up on screen. Or perhaps you'll see something where someone gets rated with, like, say, 50 raters. Or perhaps you'll see a hype train happen with, level 5 hype train in this case. Now, you're probably thinking, you've seen these sorts of interactions on stream, but how can I actively use that to create something unique? So in this particular case, Hype Train will actually tell you who participated in Hype Train if you actually check the APIs. Same thing with the raters. You can get the list of all 50 raters who actually rated a particular channel. So for example, if you wanted to see all these cars, if you wanted to spawn the actual names of whoever rated a channel with these cars, you could do that, for example, in your game. Or you could just have the individual players get added as like a pet or something, and you can see that in things like Dead Cells, where when you follow someone, it creates a little birdie that follows you around. And you can have fun with the game that way. But not only that, we also support things such as Poll the Audience. And in this particular case, the game is an RPG, and it's showing, I believe this is the one made by, not Bethesda, the other one. I can't remember the name. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So in this particular case, we have a poll going, and there are 3 different options. And in this case, the poll actually directly influences what the game uses. So there's no current actual results on this poll, but say, for example, they picked the third one, Spacer's What. If you actually hooked into our APIs, you could then cause your game to directly choose that option instead of the streamer having to go ahead and click on that button themselves. So we've seen a lot of different interactions with this. This is a different thing that we have called predictions. So polls are more open-ended. You can have as many options as you want in a poll, up to 5, where predictions are always limited to a 2-choice sort of system. In this particular case, a lot of speedrunners do this sort of thing where they'll ask their audience whether or not they think they can actually beat their best time. But using our APIs, you can call this dynamically. So that means that you can actually ask your audience a question directly about whatever game state you're in. So in the example of Ocarina of Time, you could say, like, which dungeon will they try to go first if they're in a randomizer run? Or you could say, do you think they'll be able to beat this boss in 1 level? Or do you think they'll die multiple times? Things like that. And then you could actually trigger different in-game events based on the results of this poll. But say maybe you don't want to be locked into something as simple as polls or predictions. Well, we have a system called channel points. And channel points allows you to create unique rewards on Twitch based on whatever values you determine. So if you look in the bottom right corner here, there's a box that says rewards and challenges, and then you'll see speed decrease, speed increase, drop only lines, flip controls, etc. So that is actively being whenever a user spends their channel points, they then can trigger an in-game event. So channel points are a way for you to essentially gain value as a viewer over time by watching a particular streamer. If they follow or if they subscribe to that streamer, they get more points per minute, essentially. And then these values are set by the developer. So you can choose how many points you spend to to actually trigger an in-game event. And unlike polls or predictions, channel points are very open-ended, so it's really limited almost entirely on the amount of creativity you have. And you don't only have to do it where you trigger in-game events. We've seen a couple of developers get really creative with their use of channel points. One such creator would be Ronimo Games. They have this game called Awesome Nuts. It's been around for a long time. It's a 3-on-3 mobile game. It's side-scrolling. You may or may not have seen it. But what they do is they run a weekly stream where they encourage people to come back and actually talk with their dev team about what they're doing in the game. And as you are watching their stream, you're accumulating channel points. And then they allow you to spend about 10,000 channel points to get an in-game skin. So you can also give away in-game rewards based on these channel point spends. And that means your viewers can directly determine whether or not they get a reward. This is different from, say, drops, where drops you just watch and you click claim. This is an active trigger based on what the user actively wants to spend on. So you can give them different options, and if you give them those options, it's sort of like a FOMO sort of thing, where they have to decide what they're going to spend their points on. So you're probably wondering, that all sounds great, but how hard is it to actually implement, and how can we build it? And what do I need to get started? And you probably are also wondering, what are the pain points? And what key hurdles block a lot of fellow developers? And unfortunately, there is one key hurdle that blocks most developers from getting off the line. And that is account linking. So currently, basically everything on Twitch requires an active account link to work. And account links equals tokens, and tokens run the show. So if you want to be able to make a connection, maintain a connection, activate connections, make API calls, do basically anything I just showed you, you need an active token. So that's a problem if you don't have a server in many cases, because it's much harder for you to make this sort of connection from a client, especially if you're not used to web technologies such as OAuth 2. But maybe, just maybe, there's a better way. And there is. So I run, I lead this project called the Twitch Game Engine Plugins. This is a technology that we have built with another team outside of Twitch called DataWisp. And what this allows you to do is, using either Unreal or Unity or C++, you can get a direct integration into your game in a very short amount of time. So these plugins will be released after TwitchCon, most likely. And at which point we will have these on both the Unity as well as the Unreal Store. So you won't have to worry about actively updating these yourselves. These will all be pulled down from the marketplaces. But what this essentially does is allow you to completely abstract away any web technology. You don't need to know anything about OAuth or how tokens work or how any of these connections work. This plugin will completely maintain all the connections for you. You don't have to know about what the token is, how to use it, or anything. So that means you can do full, comprehensive, end-to-end account linking. You can create any sort of subscription that you'd like, and it will handle it for you. So that means that this is significantly easier to implement. What would have taken a team of 4 or 5 people, previously a couple of weeks, to get up and running, now a single person can get up and running in a weekend. I myself have gotten this running in both Unity and Unreal in about 5 hours. So, what does that mean? It's your game and it's your way. So that means in Unity we support C#, and in Unreal we support both C++ and Blueprint. Currently these are the 2 main game engines that we support. However, we may support other game engines in the future, such as Godot. So, you're probably sick of hearing me talk by now. So let's take a look at an example game that has already released with these game engine plugins and is live right now. Our friends over at Happy Volcano were the first to ever release with our plugins, and we were really happy with what they were able to accomplish. So let's take a look at You Suck at Parking. Can I actually click this? Oh, I do. Okay, oh, there we go.
Hello and welcome to You Suck at Parking. You Suck at Parking is the only racing game with the world to start. It means a variety of levels that will be tricky obstacles and landing puzzles to show the world you can actually park your car and fast. For you Twitch streamers and content creators, we added special features that allow you to connect with the audience for a whole new parking and streaming experience. Have your viewers with you wherever you go. Even if you're busy parking cars, you will never miss a photo or subscribe. If one of those events is triggered, a small car with the name of the community member will appear. They'll be mimicking your every move before showing up. When you a hype train can actually park. We also developed something really special that will make you pay and love your chat at the same time, and it's called Chaos Mode. You can choose to activate Chaos Mode during your game sessions, and your chat will have the power to send you either super nice or super mean presents using channel points. Will it be a mime or a speed boost? You know, even a junk pad can be enough to go if you think about it. The more your chat stays watching the stream, the more channel points they earn, which you did that already. So be ready to be showered with presents. Chaos Mode will be available only in the solo campaign, and leaderboards are switched off to make your chat go crazy in this very special game mode. Find more information about Yusaka Parking's Twitch features on our website, and see you on the road, streamers.
Cool. So, now that we've seen that, let's take a look. Oh, we did it again. So let's take a look at some code samples, because I'm sure you're wondering, that sounds great. How hard is it really? So let's take a look at Unity first. So in Unity, we're going to split these into 3 different sections. The top section, if you don't know, is that on Twitch, every time you make an account link, you must also request scopes. And that means that you must know ahead of time what you're going to use. So for example, if you wanted to use polls and predictions, you'd have to request that at account link time. And in this particular case, we're pulling down both polls, predictions, and managed broadcasts, so that allows you to get as creative as you want because you have pretty much access to everything except for the more nitty-gritty scopes. So let's take a look here on how it actually works. So at the top, we set our scopes, then we set the actual OAuth scope, and then finally we create what is called an auth info task. Now, in the Unity side of the Twitch Game Engine plugins, everything runs inside of what we call a game task. Now, you may or may not know this, but in Unity there is an idea of an awaiter. And usually you use that to make new threads so that you can handle different things out of order. We took it upon ourselves to make it a little bit easier. So what we do is we actively run these tasks, and when these tasks complete, you get all the information without you having to actively go out and pull these individually at, say, update time. So in this particular case, after you have your OAuth info, you can check to see whether or not it's been completed, and if it is completed, you can then pull down the user code as well as the URI code. So what that means is, if you looked in that You Suck at Parking video, when they clicked login, there was that little code there. That's our device code. And that was actually made by our identity team, and one of our identity team members are here today. So if you meet Rishi, say hi. But anyway, that runs under what we call DCF, and device code flow really makes it a lot easier since they don't have to go out and fully figure this out. They just pull down the code, they hit enter, and then everything's linked up. So once you have this link established, you now have a fully active connection, and that means you can go out and create whatever you want. So let's say you wanted to create a poll. Creating a poll is pretty easy. As I said before, you make a game task, and in this particular case, you set it to poll. But there are many different game tasks that are in the Game Engine plugins, be it predictions, polls, channel points, basically anything that is supported by our platform, you can find inside of these tasks. So in this particular case, we create a new definition file, and then we simply tell it what the definitions are. So say you're in an adventure game, and you're walking down a path, and then you come to a split in the road. And in this particular case, we can pop up an in-game message saying which road should we take. Do we take the windy road, or do we take the straight road? And then finally, we set a duration. These durations are always in seconds. There is a little bit of leeway, but generally it's about the same as real time. And then actually, once you've completed that poll, you can go out and check to see what has won. And it's pretty easy to do so. You simply just check the title to see which one of the selections have made what. So in this particular case, you could then check to see whether or not windy votes have more than street votes. And then you can do whatever you want in your game. You can close off the other road, you can force them onto the winding road, really anything. So this allows you to get as creative as you want. And we've seen some cool stuff with this already, where you trigger different sort of in-game events. You Suck at Parking, of course, uses it for low gravity mode. But we've also seen it in other things like Truck Heck, which you may or may not know. That one has a weird game mode where all the wheels pop off if you vote for that. It makes it a little harder to drive. Anyway, let's take a look at Unreal. So Unreal is a little bit different than Unity. It does have a little bit of a new way to add additional features. So in this particular case, you have to actually edit your build.cs file and add the Route 66 module. So Route 66 is the code name for this. That will go away, and it will say Twitch in the future. But if you sign up for the beta now, it will say Route 66, so just keep that in mind. Also, slightly different is if you're on Unreal 4, you do need to set the C++ standard to actually be on version number 17. If you're on Unreal version 5, it's already set to 17, so you don't need to do this. And then much like before, we do our standard account link. So this is where we actually set up the module for that. So we grab the core, we tell it what to pull down, and then we set scopes just like before. So you'll notice this is slightly different. We're not actually adding additional scopes, but rather building them. There's a slightly different paradigm on Unreal versus Unity. But other than that, they essentially function exactly the same. So in this particular case, we just set info test and null so the above message isn't set over and over again. And then let's take a look at how it is to do the exact same thing that we just saw in Blueprints. And this slide's actually a little weird. It has clips twice that I should have edited. Anyway, on the left you have your scope selection. In the middle you build those scopes. And on the right you just get the authentication info. And as you can see here, this particular blueprint node is a delayed blueprint node. So what that means is this blueprint will trigger as soon as it has completed its task. So you don't have to actually go out and create timers or anything. This will fire off as soon as it's done. So you're not actively going out and polling, for example. So you're probably wondering, when can we try it? Well, you can sign up for this beta right now. So if you look around the audience or the venue, there's a bunch of QR codes. If you use your phone to scan that QR code, it'll bring you right to our Google Doc where you will be able to sign up through our form. I add people all the time. If you do end up building anything with the game engine plugins, please send me a message. I'd love to see what you guys make. I'd really, really like to see what sort of creativity comes out of this. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Who's got questions?